Ed Group, great to sit down with you finally.
Storey, good to sit down with you.
I've been following your stuff for years, and then eventually, somehow I figured out that you lived in Texas after I moved here. I was like, oh man, I wonder how far you are. So you're in Houston. I appreciate you driving over here. It's kind of a haul. There's so much I want to talk about. It's going to be hard to distill it down to the time we have today. First off, I love your products. I just want to say that, like the quality and detail in manufacturing and innovation is freaking off the charts. So thank you for doing it right. There's a lot of people that produce supplements that are not only a waste of money in many cases because they're not effective, but they are also toxic. It's like people are out there spending money on supplements and all the freaking, what do they call that? Not constituents.
Fillers, excipients.
Excipients, that's the word I'm looking for. Anyway, we'll get into that later. But I just wanted to make sure I say that first off, because I sit down here with a lot of people, and I really only talk to people that I think are doing really good things in the world, especially if they have a product. And you're one of the few that's like really top shelf. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is urotherapy or auto urine therapy. Years ago, this is probably 20 years ago, I got this book. I think it was called Your Own Perfect Medicine or something. Okay. Read that, started drinking my own urine every morning. And, I don't know because I'm always doing so much stuff. I don't really know if it had an impact. And it wasn't as gross or anything as people might think. It sounds gross, and you're going to dispel that myth for us. And I kind of just, I don't know, lost the habit after a few months or something like that. And I wasn't really trying to work on anything specific, so it was hard to track my results. Fast forward 20 years, there are some health influencers out there that are sunning their buttholes and drinking their own urine. And it's become kind of a joke for people to make fun of people in the wellness space who do the auto urine therapy. And I've heard you talk about it in a way that's very much rooted in science and historical context. And so the way you speak about it has intrigued me, and I'm thinking about getting started with it again. So tell us what you know about that particular practice.
Well, my introduction came in 1995 with the introduction of Your Own Perfect Medicine by Martha Christie. In 1995, I was part of a research team, a cancer research team. Before that, I actually was about to be a heart surgeon or go into medical school, and I was literally a couple months away from taking my MCAT, and this is how the universe works. I ended up meeting this guy at a party, and I'm arguing with him because he's talking about this new field of advanced alternative oncology. I'm like, advanced alternative oncology, what's that? And he's like, these are doctors who have experimented with many different things and that are teaching people how to heal themselves. It's addressing the root cause of disease and not the symptoms. And they don't use pharmaceuticals. I was in college for 12 years and I was completely brainwashed into the whole big pharma thing at this point in time. In the 90s, there was no internet or anything like that, right? I mean, you couldn't go and say alternative oncologist and look, it just didn't even exist. He said there's probably less than 50 advanced alternative oncologists in the world in the 90s. And this was connected at the time. MD Anderson was going through their complementary alternative medicine program in the cancer hospitals in the 90s, and which was a big joke anyway. And so we started arguing back and forth, and I was like, well, the money goes into all this science behind pharmaceuticals and all this stuff, and they have to be good. And he's like, he goes, you have a degree in chemistry and biochemistry. Have you ever broken down a pharmaceutical? And I was like, that kind of stuck with me. And then the dinner ended, and I couldn't get it out of my head. So about 2 days later, I said, you know what? I'm going to prove this guy wrong. And I went down, had to drive like 30 minutes to the medical library. I was in there for about no more than 4 hours as I started looking at pharmaceuticals and how they were made and how they break down in the body and the physiological point and the biological effects of the body. I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy's right. This is poison to the body. This is not doing anything. It's just putting a Band-Aid over the symptoms. He's right. And I remember that day I was going back as a kid. I was a very spiritual kid. I had all these visions and all this weird stuff, and which led my family to having me in these psychiatry sessions and stuff like that. But The reason I'm saying that is because I got in my car and I started driving back, which is about 30 minutes from the library. And all of a sudden, this white light came up into my car, and I was just bawling, crying. It was just this emotional, energetic feeling. It was like I could feel the nature, like this happened to me on purpose. And my hands came off the wheel, and it was just heal with nature. That was my first experience with becoming one with nature and healing with your hands, and God has everything to heal with. And I can remember when my hands went back on the steering wheel, I was probably 10 or 15 miles down the road. And that was my sign. And I went back to him and I said, can I be on your research team? This was an advanced alternative oncology research team that he was heading up, which was going around the world for 2 years and learning every single type from all of these advanced alternative medicine doctors. And there was about 6 of us on the team at the time. Mostly it was me and him because a lot of times other people couldn't join us and stuff like that. And we studied and learned and interviewed people from instantaneous healings, spiritual healings. We went to all these underground, cancer conventions. We learned about how these doctors were getting killed off. We learned all the deep stuff about fluoride. I mean, the rabbit hole just kept going deeper and deeper and deeper. And it was at one of these conferences that there was a guy that would show up to multiple conferences. His name was Dr. Jesse Partridge. And he would always walk around and say, one of these days you guys are going to learn that you can heal pretty much everything with just meditation, sunlight, the simplicity of healing, teaching people why they have disease to begin with, and urine, which he didn't call it a therapy, okay, which we call it urine therapy, but in reality, it's a golden alchemical nectar, which is the highest vibrations. Like Einstein and Tesla said, we are energy and vibration. By the way, last year they did a study in India, and they had a liter of urine, which 1 liter of urine produced 8.6 kilowatts of electricity and ran a medium-sized house for 8 hours. That's how much power is in a liter of your urine, 8.6 kilowatts. It's an energy thing. It's your body's ability to create a medicine and a vibrational plasma that can be used for multiple different things. And so that was my first introduction, and I really started studying it, which was 30 years ago. Ultimately, we went around for 2 years and presented our research, and then we were followed around in black cars, and we opened up our own cancer clinic in Houston in 1999. We treated a bunch of movie stars, the royal family, and ultimately we got shut down by the FDA. And, I've had death threats and everything else. But urine, the reason I started coming back out with urine therapy or the urine plasma and how effective it is because I was part of the COVID task force during the pandemic. There were 27 of us that were working for the government and under Trump's administration. And when we were researching all the stuff at the beginning stages, when we were researching stuff all over the world, probably 90% of the world's population didn't have access to herbs, and they didn't have access to stuff when they were completely freaked out and fearful that this thing was, coming into existence. We all knew that it was planned from a long time ago. As a matter of fact, in 2016, I started looking at the documents and looking at the transhumanism agenda and looking at their plan of action, these, power-hungry, control-hungry individuals that are basically running the world. And I saw the nanotechnology and what Big Pharma and all these people were doing. They were trying to harness energy from the body, and they were trying to produce these wide body area networks and this nanotechnology and this lipid nanoparticle technology. And I had finished all my research on it, and I was trying to warn everybody, guys, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to create us, transform us into a half cyborg, half human, so they can control us. And what we noticed when we were part of the advisory board, the COVID task force, was that what was really going on behind the scenes? I'm not even really supposed to talk about this because I had to sign an NDA like 2 inches thick. What was really going on behind the scenes was Operation Telecommunications Upgrade. Okay, so Operation Warp Speed was just kind of a facade they were throwing out there, but what was really going on is they were upgrading all the towers. And this was one of our biggest concerns from 2016. And when I had finished all my research around 2017, I was looking for a platform to tell the world about it. And Alex Jones asked me to come on his show in 2018. And when I came on his show in 2018 and I laid out exactly what their plan was, they're going to create a pandemic, they're going to create a bioweapon, which they're going to call a vaccine. They're going to utilize the frequencies that they have set up. They made us believe that cell phone towers are cell phone towers, but they're really directed energy weapons. Same with your phone is a directed energy weapon. Same with any smart thing is a directed energy weapon. You can look at the documentation, DARPA documents, Army War College documents, DOD documents. I mean, you can pull it up. It's not, they have to put everything out there for us to see. That show in 2018 that I did on Alex Jones, right after that, I was completely eliminated, and that's when he was completely eliminated, pretty much wiped clean on the internet. I was unpersoned. I had, at the time, probably over 100 million followers. I was pretty, my YouTube accounts, my social media accounts, I was pretty well known. I was completely wiped clean in 2018 after that show. You couldn't even find anything about me. He was completely wiped out, had massive lawsuits filed against him for Sandy Hook and everything else. It was that show that uncovered every single thing that they were going to do. Then fast forward to 2020 when we had the pandemic, and then what happened with me is I got death threats. I was followed around. Even my employees got death threats at the company, at our company. So it was pretty, they really did not want that information out there. And then when the pandemic happened, he replayed the show because it was in his archive. Scientists predicted exactly what's happening now in 2018. And then that caused all kinds of a stir. Well, we all knew that it was a big scam, and what they were trying to do was to get nanotechnology everywhere, and we believed that they were doing it through the air and the water and the food and many other distribution systems so they can experiment. But the first pandemic was really an experiment to see how many people would roll over, how many people would put a mask on. They were analyzing, there were different shots, there were different frequency ranges in different cities. They could crank it up. I mean, I've got the document where they can cause the exact same symptoms of COVID just with pulsed 5G. The same thing. So what happened after that is I was invited. So during that time, I just happened to fall into my lap is the research coming from India. And a lot of the Indian people over there have been drinking their urine for years. You can go buy a 6-pack of cow urine in the store over in India. And even in the Middle East, you can buy camel urine everywhere. It's not a taboo thing. People drink camel urine and they drink cow urine. And in India, even the prime minister was drinking his own urine for years and years. So it's not a taboo thing over there, and they understand it. They understand the power of it because the Dhamma Tantra, which was written 4,000 years ago, described how you can enhance your enlightenment levels by utilizing deep meditation and, transitioning your body. And they wouldn't even introduce the urine to them until they had done a certain many years of meditation. And then after the first year, this is what happens in your body. The second year, and then after the 12th year, you become, you can walk on water and you can, walk through fire and you won't get burned. And all this stuff was written in the Dhamma Tantra. But the issue that we originally had identified was many different types of health issues that people were going to suffer from. Turbo cancers, most, blood clotting, heart disease, stuff like that. And all the information that was coming into me from India where people were drinking their own urine and they were getting better in 48 hours, 72 hours. And I was like, oh, I know about this. I've been doing it, off and on for 30 years. I was introduced to this years ago, and we used to use it in our cancer treatments. Dr. Hitt we trained with, who was a great cancer doctor down in Mexico. Dr. Brzezinski, who's a good friend of mine. Dr. Brzezinski trained in the urine therapy clinics in India. That's how he found out about it. That's how he found the anti-neoplastins in urine. And then he just came and started, isolating the anti-neoplastins from the urine. So it was all of these chemicals and these toxins and these bioweapons and all this nanotechnology that it was like, okay, well, what happens at the time they were talking about, well, it might get to the point where they're going to come to your home and take you. They're building all these concentration camps everywhere. What do you do in that case? So I'm always about simplicity. Like, everything that I did is about the simplest ways to heal yourself, take control of your own self. The true definition of a doctor is a teacher, not a prescriber, empowering you to take control of your own health and detoxify. Ultimately, our research in the 90s, our presentation was all disease. Every single disease, even if you want to say mental illness and everything else, is caused by two things. This was our conclusion: a toxic external environment and a toxic internal environment. That's it. Your external environment is people you're hanging around with, what you're watching on TV, the mold in your house, the shampoos you're using, anything in your external environment that's going to lower your vibrational frequencies or be toxic to your mind or toxic to your body or toxic to your soul in any way. And the internal environment is obviously anything you put inside of yourself.
And also, for anyone listening or watching to whom that sounds unbelievable, it's easily provable by just observing animals in nature that don't have Alzheimer's, don't have diabetes, don't have cancer, don't have all the things, right?
You can if you
crazy.
When it comes down to it, you can say that you are the root cause, but you just don't know it because you've been manipulated and you've been brainwashed since you were a baby. Every single thing I tell people, like, what if I told you that every aspect of your life from the time you were born, even before you're born, even when you're in the womb and when you're conceived, has been engineered and you don't even know it? From the time you're born is exactly opposite of how you should be born. Your natural birth, outside in nature. Now you're under bright lights. You have a doctor there that's, someone you're scared. There's a lot of noise there. There's bad energy around there. Then you go home and then you start watching all these manipulated cartoons on TV. The whole educational system is completely engineered. The whole political system is engineered. It's like the Truman Show, really. The whole agricultural system, the whole government system, all the wars are engineered. Like, basically every single thing is engineered. Even the foods you choose, most of the time you've been engineered to choose those foods. And to get you addicted and to get you looking and focusing and distracted outside of yourself instead of focusing inside of yourself. One thing I learned when I was a kid, I started studying all the different religions out there, and I noticed one thing that was in every single book, and it was the kingdom of heaven is within. And then when I went around, started asking all the preachers and all of the, spiritual, people that were running the churches, can you explain to me this sentence, like the kingdom of heaven is within? What does that mean? I want to learn how to access that. Nobody could answer that question for me. That took me on a whole nother journey to, studying, great philosophers and spiritual teachers and different gurus and to deal with that. But the reason I brought up the urine therapy at the Truth About Cancer conference in 2021 is because of the urokinase. The urokinase is the enzyme in urine that dissolves blood clots. And the fact that urine is the most powerful anti-poison that there is. And it is the most effective way because your body takes in something and then your body produces antibodies, anti-venoms, everything that it needs, even anti-cancer agents. There's 6 compounds. So far, there's been over 5,100 compounds that have been identified in human urine. And still there's 6 compounds that scientists still have not even been able to identify. They call them the God particles.
Really?
Yeah. And they still don't know why there's superconscious gold in your urine and superconscious gold in your semen too. And understanding the effects of gold and how that works on the body, going back into ancient alchemy, it's very powerful because gold is the ultimate transmitter and receiver of every single frequency. It's the only element in the world that can do that. It can be positively charged, negatively charged, or it can be neutrally charged.
Is gold the most conductive metal?
Well, it might. Gold. Okay, so let's talk about.
I'm asking because sometimes in high-end stereo equipment, like audiophile stereo equipment, they're always marketing the gold connectors and stuff. So I thought, there must be something with
the quantum computers are made of pretty much of solid gold.
Okay.
So gold is a great conductor. It's a great semiconductor. And actually, the ancient Egyptians in the X schools, you see the X-Men here, but in ancient Egypt, they had X schools for the elite, and they were making superconscious liquid gold, and that's what they were using to enhance their biofield and their aura. See, one of the things that's been left out of the medical text is our largest organ. Like if you ask a medical doctor, what's the largest organ? They're going to say the skin. That's wrong. Your largest organ is your aura. It's your energetic field. And that was well known in many ancient cultures. Like they would laugh at us if we said our largest organ is the skin. It's all about energy and it's all about vibration. And the ancient Egyptians found a way to make a liquid superconscious gold, which would enhance your physical abilities. It would enhance your mental abilities. And this type of a gold is not like a colloidal gold, not like a white powder gold like David Hudson, not any type of gold that's made with chemicals. What they did was they developed these lenses and they used the sun to make the gold. And they could make green gold, yellow gold, liquid gold, white liquid gold, pink liquid gold. And I found all this out because the historian for the Rothschild expedition, that Rothschild expedition is when they found 60 tons of liquid gold in one of the chambers.
What?
No one even knows about that today because it's all been secret.
Dude, that's crazy.
But the historian, the lady that was the historian that was writing everything down, had something like 40,000 pages during the whole expedition, and she rewrote a copy of it and left it in her attic. And her great-great-great-grandson, it got passed down in boxes, and he ended up finding it, and he's devoted his whole life to this liquid, really high powerful gold. And so that's what we're actually making right now at our facility, which is a superconscious gold, which has its own consciousness to it. I know that sounds weird, but we've tested the ppm one day and it's like 60 ppm, and then it's the moon, then it's the full moon, and then the next day after the full moon it's like 100 ppm gold. It's like
really?
It changes, and this was the same gold that they use, and you have to use the sunlight and all the frequencies, and you have to vortex it a certain way. And so that's also a really powerful thing that we need to know, because superconscious gold is going to be one of the things that's going to help save humanity and bring people's consciousness and awareness and enlightenment up to the next level, which I believe we're really just here to become enlightened beings. I mean, to experience this reality, basically. We chose to come down here to experience this reality. And that has a lot to do with the urine, because you do have that superconscious gold in your urine as well, which is another reason why it's so powerful. But at that time, I was teaching people that, look, even if you get thrown into some concentration camp or something, you're still going to have the most powerful medicine in the world within you. And it can save your life. I mean, in the jungles in Africa and in the jungles of South America and everywhere else, people are in those jungles for weeks and months at a time. They don't have access to an emergency clinic. It's well known. They get bit by a poisonous snake. They get bit by a cobra, whatever. They wait, a few minutes until they have to pee, and they drink their own urine because your urine already has the antivenoms in it. I mean, how do you think they even make antivenoms? They used to have a snake inject a horse with rattlesnake venom. The horse would produce the antibodies, the antivenoms in the urine. They would collect the urine, and that's how they would make, or the blood, and they would make antivenoms out of it. So your body does the same thing. As a matter of fact, it works the same way. If you get bit by a jellyfish, right, you've heard to pee on your leg.
Yeah.
If you get bit by a bee and you're having an allergic reaction or something, you're going to, any type of allergic reaction, your body's going to produce those anti-allergens, and then you can drink it and you'll be okay.
That is amazing, because one of the things, it's probably an unreasonable fear because people don't seem bothered by it, but there's so many damn scorpions out here in Texas. I've never lived anywhere where there's scorpions, and I'm a Scorpio astrologically, so you'd think I would be cool with them, but I'm for some reason very afraid of scorpions. And I was actually at an event the other day, and someone got stung, and they were just like, "Oh, it's no big deal. They're a Texan, though." I'm like, "What?" We've been taught our whole life that being bit by a scorpion or stung by a scorpion is like a rattlesnake bite. Like, I equate them on the same. Like, you could die, you get really sick. So even if my mind is over exaggerating it, it's good to know if I do get stung by one. Wait like 15 minutes, drink some pee. Like, I wonder how long it takes to metabolize and create
what you would
the
do is you
antivenom.
would just keep drinking it as much as possible. And they've even had accounts of where there's 2 or 3 people in the jungle, and one person gets bit by the poisonous snake and couldn't pee, and then the other person that was with them peed, and they drank their pee just because they were in the same energy field of the person that got bit. They were able to sustain and save the guy's life until he was
quantum
able
entanglement
to pee.
kind of
So it's
thing.
like a quantum entanglement thing. It's
badass.
the energies are all connected.
Right.
So I just really wanted people to know that there is a solution out there. And I'm not out there saying that drinking your urine is a magic bullet, by all means. It's not, you're not going to drink your own urine. And I mean, we have seen miraculous cases. We've had people literally that were hours away from death that started drinking their own urine, that hadn't even eaten, couldn't eat because they couldn't even hold anything down. They had fevers. They were pale. They were down to 100 pounds, a 6'1" male athlete. He was on his way out. He was dying. And there was nothing else. They were going to fly him out to Cleveland Clinic and put him on a feeding tube the next morning. And I said, well, hey, it's worth a try. Drink, have him drink his urine. He drank his urine, and within 2 hours, his color started coming back. His appetite started coming back within 4 hours. His fever went away. He was able to eat an avocado. The first thing he ate in 10 days. He was wasting away. He ate an avocado and kept it down. This was the first thing. He couldn't even take supplements, right? So no one could work with him because for over 30 days, he was really having a hard time keeping anything down. So you couldn't give him any pills, you couldn't give him any supplements, nothing. So it was at like that dire to where the only thing you could do is put him on a feeding tube, and he was probably going to die anyway. And he was able to keep an avocado down. Later on in the day, they gave him some almond butter, just some nut butters to get some really good, calories in him. And fever went away, and the next day he was able to eat again and basically came back. They never had to send him to the hospital and saved his life. I mean, there's many, many stories. I've been researching this for so long, and especially over the last 4 years, I've been, digging up so much information and talking with so many people that have just had life-changing experiences, especially people that did get the bioweapon. Didn't get the bioweapon, it doesn't matter, but being able to tried everything, tried all the different supplementation, and urine was the only thing that really worked to bring them back to where they need to be. So
incredible.
That's why I'm really a detox guy, because detoxing your external environment and detoxing your internal environment is the key to everything.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of detox, I think one of the things that deterred me from continuing with the drinking of urine is this, what I think is a misconception. When we think about like our fecal waste, right? It's like all of the stuff that your body's rejecting, your eliminatory organs are getting rid of it, dumping it all into your colon, and hopefully you get rid of it. And I actually want to talk about colon cleansing with you too. It's something no one wants to talk about, and it's so important. But I've always thought, erroneously, I think, that that your urine is just another version of all of the toxins that your body's trying to get rid of. So that was kind of a sticking point for me. I'm like, but wait, if my body, through the kidneys and all this is like getting rid of all these toxins in your pee, then why would you want to put those toxins back in? But I think that's wrong, because urine is sterile. It doesn't have like microbes and things like that, like feces does. I mean, I haven't heard anyone talking about being a proponent of eating your own feces yet, although it wouldn't shock me.
Well, they are doing fecal transplants now and different things, and they have it freeze-dried that people are actually taking to get the good bacteria in their system. So who knows, like 5 years from now, we might be talking about eating poo and drinking your own urine. That's probably the most common question that I get. Like I get hammered by these groups of medical doctors on these Zoom calls. And by the end of the call, they're all usually drinking their own urine or at least open to it because we have enough scientific evidence behind the things. For example, Wake Forest University did a study a couple years ago, and they tested the stem cells in urine. Okay. And so this is a big thing. People run out and get stem cell injections and everything, but there's two components to your DNA. There's the physical component. See, science only looks at the physical things they can see, but really the magic is in what you can't see. You have a quantum energetic signature that you're born with. It's only specifically for you. Now, if you take any other stem cells from any other person, you're taking in their quantum energetic signatures, and you can take on some karmas, and you can take on some other stuff. What you really want is you want your undifferentiated stem cells. Look, where do stem cells come from anyway? They get them from the umbilical. They get them from the placenta. They get them from the amniotic fluid. All that is urine, okay? Like every single person watching this right now has drank their own urine because that's what you live on when you're in the womb. That's what the amniotic fluid is. So everybody's drank their own urine, really, to be honest with you. And the Wake Forest found a roughly 140 stem cells in your first morning urine. Undifferentiated. That means stem cells that can repair and regenerate into any organ, tissue, bone, anything. Okay, those are like the, start of life for you.
Are these being manufactured in your bone marrow and then being somehow transported into your kidney or bladder or something? Like, do we know how they get in there?
We don't know for sure how they're getting in there, but it's probably like the God particle thing. But we know that there are 140 undifferentiated stem cells in the morning. So check this out. So they left the urine on the counter and they retested it in 21 days. In 21 days, it was over 100 million stem cells.
Is this why people are fermenting their urine?
Yes. So you can actually, I have a system and I'll be happy to share it with you. So you can actually take your urine and you can even go as far as solarizing it and lunarizing it, letting it sit in a window and getting some sun and energizes it, and then letting it be part of the 30-day cycle, moon and lunar cycle. And there's no studies that, will say, oh yeah, that proves that. But this is all on a quantum level. This is all on an energetic level. I mean, this is like passed down from the ancient teachers and spiritual guides and stuff like that. And so basically you can let it sit for 30 days, 21 days to 30 days, and then, taking a little small rectal enema bulb or a 30 cc syringe, and you can get the silicone applicators on there, and you can do usually what's been working really good is about 10 cc's at a time. You could do 10 cc's for 3 days on, take a day off, then 10 cc's for 3 days on, take a day off until your bottle's done. And then you can just take a break for a month or whatever while your next batch is working. And you're
10 cc's is very little.
It's a
liquid,
small
right?
amount.
And so are you talking about doing like a subcutaneous injection of it?
No, I'm talking about doing a rectal.
Oh, okay, like an implant.
Just taking a syringe piece, a silicone syringe, sticking it up your anus, and just injecting it in.
Got it, okay.
It's just a liquid suppository,
Got
basically.
it, okay.
And it's not a lot, so your body will absorb it, and then you'll get all those stem cells back into your system.
That's crazy.
That, to me, I wouldn't trust any other type of stem cell therapy because you're getting it somewhere else. And this way, you have your own original DNA. Originally, our research on all this nanotechnology and these bioweapons was showing us that they were trying to change our DNA. They were trying to alter our DNA. So the the question we were asking is, okay, so let's say they're able to actually change our DNA into some other type of form. How do we repair it? Like, if they change it, how do we get it back to normal? Well, there's only two ways that you can actually repair your DNA, your own DNA, with your own DNA or with water-only fasting, basically, because we know water-only fasting during the autophagy process, 4 days plus or whenever, you're going to start creating undifferentiated stem cells. Your body will do that during fasting. There's nothing else. There's nothing else out there that can give you your original quantum energy signature of your DNA, except for your own urine, or you can do water-only fasting.
Wow.
There's nothing. So let's just say that and that's still up in the air. What we figured out in our research is that they're using and we have the documentation. What they're doing is they're using the bacteria and yeast in your body. That's what they're manipulating in your system to create these venomous spike glycoproteins and create this, situation that people are having within their system, because they realize that it's really hard to mess with the human DNA because of that spiritual component, because of that quantum energetic vibration that we have. And look, okay, 97% of our body is non-human cells. Most people don't know that. If you're going to try to manipulate and control somebody, are you going to go after the 97% of the cells in the body, or are you going to go after the 3% human cells in the body? They went after the 97% non-human cells in the body. Yeast and bacteria, they're weaponizing the E. coli, they're weaponizing bacteria, and they're weaponizing the yeast. It's very simple to do the genetic engineering on the yeast. They use P. pastoris and they use C. cerevisiae, brewer's yeast. And by the way, the FDA approved genetically modified brewer's yeast for all agricultural use before COVID. So they're actually infecting all the animals, because the animals, they add brewer's yeast to the feed. So they infect the animals there with all the genetically modified brewer's yeast. That's why it's extremely important, which we'll probably go over on some of our findings and how to detoxify all these things from
that's
from the
definitely
system.
something I want
because
to talk
they're
about.
smart. All this talk about spike protein this, that's so far off of what their whole system is. They have so many different vectors. They put it this way. They purposely got us all addicted to sugar, starting in around the 1960s is when they really started pushing sugar. What feeds yeast and bacteria? Sugar does. What happened during COVID? Everybody drank alcohol and ate a bunch of sugar. They got us addicted to alcohol. They got us addicted to gluten. They got us addicted to sugar. These are all poisons that feed their system. And they have us all contaminating and accumulating a massive amount of inorganic minerals in our system as well. So all of these things were strategically planned out. We've got a whole, think of it as a bicycle wheel, and you have the hub, and then you have the spokes out to the outer. So fluoride in the water, sugar, alcohol, EMF radiation, weaponized yeast and bacteria, venoms, all of these things around this whole vector is that they're using. It's not just one thing like a spike protein. It's a multifaceted approach, highly strategically planned out, I must say, with the hydrogel and the nanotechnology, and they moved into nanotechnology. The last piece of the puzzle that they did, they already had the nanotech, and they had the quantum dots, and they had the lipid nanoparticle technology, and they had the hydrogel, the self-replicating, self-assembling technology. If anyone has not seen Sabrina Wallace's work, they should look her up on Odyssey. She's the whistleblower.
That shit is crazy, dude.
That's the kind of stuff that
Can you put that
it's called energy harvesting.
Could you put that in the show notes, Jared? They're hard video. Her stuff's hard to find. I saw a TikTok or something, and I had to really internet sleuth it to get to some of her long form videos. We're going to do the show notes at lukestorey.com. Dr. Group, DRGROUP. Sabrina Wallace is the name. Anyway, carry on.
So she's the whistleblower that came out that was part of that technology. Since 1995, they've been learning how to read our energy fields, read our thoughts, be able to manipulate and control through frequency, basically. But they can do that through bacteria and yeast. For example, just when you expose bacteria and yeast and organisms, harmful organisms, mold even too, to different types of frequencies, you can enhance the sugar consumption of those organisms. You can enhance the replication rate of those organisms, even up to 60,000 times faster. For example, with mold, if it's exposed to 5G, it can replicate up to 60,000. Some people say even 600,000 times faster. That's another reason why we're seeing a massive issue with mold now with people.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy too. Moving to Texas, mold is such an issue here, and it's really wild because a lot of the issues are in brand new buildings in downtown Austin, which is all lit up with 5G. And it makes sense if you think about, it's basically the excrement of the mold that are the mycotoxins that are toxic to us, right? And so it makes sense if you're hitting them with radio waves, they're getting pissed off, the mold, and they're trying to survive. So they're producing more of the toxins that are in the environment, in our air. It's crazy. Another thing they do here that's maddening is, and I've talked to contractors about this, and the good ones are aware of it. I'll see them building a development or a mall and like these big buildings or even single family homes, and then it rains and everything's just sitting out there molding, and then they just cover it up and they just seal it all in there, in these like double pane windows, and everything's like hermetically sealed. I'm like, man, this is crazy. No wonder there's so much mold. Then they put Wi-Fi routers inside the house and all these smart technologies, quote smart, dumb technologies, and then hit it from every direction with all these high powered towers that have exponentially more power than you would ever need to transmit a cellular data signal,
Well, here's where it kind of gets interesting. So when we were part of our research team in the 90s, we had special access to Royal Raymond Rife's research. We ended up being on the Royal Raymond Rife, which those of you I'm sure your listeners know who Royal Raymond Rife was. He was doing research on frequencies and determining what frequencies would be active to blow up different types of organisms. He had the Rife microscope, which was the light microscope that could see 100,000x living things. So we had all of Rife's original lab manuals, all of his original stuff that wasn't confiscated. About 75% of the stuff was confiscated from his laboratory. So we even had his light microscope. There were two of them. We had his light microscope, all of his original lab manuals, all that stuff. So Rife's research was a very destructive type of research, obviously. All of this, like people talking about these Rife machines out there, and you get all this, this booklet of all these 10,000 frequencies for like Rife's frequency for pancreas, Rife's frequency for immune. None of that is true, okay? Rife only had around 48 frequencies. I know because I owned his book. I donated Rife's original works to Steve Ross at the World Research Foundation, who Steve was good friends with John Crane. Rife hired John Crane came to buy Rife's stuff. That's a whole nother story. And then John Crane took Rife's original work and started signing Rife's name on everything and started creating all these fictitious frequencies.
Oh, interesting.
In Rife's original lab manual, he only had roughly 48 frequencies in there, and each one was for a specific bacteria or what he called the BX virus, which he associated with cancer. Rife's research was not like Lakhovsky's research with the multi-wave oscillator. Lakhovsky was about repairing the organs and regenerating the system and activating the self-healing mechanism so your body's energy and vibrational level went up to a point where nothing could survive in that environment, and it would be pushed out or it would be killed. Now,
which is part of the technology in the biocharger, right? Is the how do you say it? Lakhovsky. Yeah, when I interviewed those guys, he mentioned that he basically took part of that work and applied it to that device. Tesla
and Lakhovsky's work in the biocharger, which I really like the biocharger. It's good. It's basically a Tesla coil in there.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing that we found in Rife's notes was that Rife termed pleomorphism. What Rife saw, and by the way, in his notes he said, there are worlds beyond worlds beyond worlds of organisms that I cannot even see at 100,000x, okay? So like science right now that identifies this bacteria and all this stuff, just imagine this. There's worlds beyond worlds of organisms that are living in us that we haven't even identified yet. Rife couldn't even. He said that was 100,000x. He still said there was, layers and layers and layers beyond that of organisms. So what happened was when he was looking at yeast, and I'm talking about this because this is what they're doing. They're weaponizing bacteria and yeast, okay? And you can pull up all the documents on it too. I can send them to you for all of your listeners so they can verify what I'm saying. What Rife noticed was when he was looking at bacteria under the microscope, and something happened, like he got stressed out, or the phone rang, or something like that. It was something that was shaking or something that was very loud. The bacteria got scared, and when they got scared or threatened, they actually turned into a yeast. And when the yeast got scared, they actually turned into a bacteria. So yeast and bacteria are the two organisms that can shapeshift to each other.
Wow. If
they're threatened or they're under attack, a bacteria can flip into a yeast, and a yeast can flip into a bacteria. And he termed that pleomorphism. Now, Gaston Nasens, another great scientist
one thing real quick, is pleomorphism accepted at this point by mainstream science?
99% no.
Oh, okay.
No, they say it doesn't exist. No.
All right, carry on.
But I think the people behind the scenes, because you got to work in Operation Paperclip into this too, where we took all of the best scientists from Germany and siloed them everywhere to work on all these dark op projects. I believe that there are a few people, evil people, that are working on this, and maybe they're good people. And they don't even know what they're doing. A lot of times, people in the government, and a lot of, they just don't even know. They're just working on projects. That's why they silo them in all these different areas, so no one really knows what the other one's working on.
Compartmentalization,
which is going to be the demise of them, by the way, because they did that. But Gaston Nasens also proved it. Gaston Nasens, he was the developer of 714X. 714X was a cancer, natural cancer product that he developed, which was an injectable, which was working really good for lymphatic type cancers. But Gaston Nasens proved that Rife was right when he was working with his microscope up in Canada, and he saw the same thing, the bacteria changing to a yeast and a yeast back to a bacteria. I believe the people working on the bioweapons and the genetic engineering know that, because that's part of the system and the plan. With different frequencies, they can shift the bacteria to a yeast, or different other frequencies, they can shift the yeast back to a bacteria, and they can work with these different types of frequencies with these things. So the bacteria, like when you hear, the mRNA, and that's kind of old school now, because we figured out that they're using plasmid technology and they're using synthetic biology at this point in time that they've developed. And even aerosolized nanotechnology with payloads and delivery systems. I mean, this is all like super high-tech stuff, but it's out there for you to read. And it's easier to get this stuff inside the yeast and the bacteria. Once you get it in there, they start producing all these spike glycoproteins, these venomous spike glycoproteins that are circulating in everybody. So when we were part of that Rife research team, we learned all this stuff, which ended up coming a lot into play in the last 4 or 5 years. We're in a whole nother environment right now. Like where we sit right now, all the research that's been done, it's like this is all new. Like this is all brand new stuff that no one's ever seen before, heard before, that's just taking over, So and that led me, actually, we were part of the Tesla research team too. That's how, when we finished, we were on the Rife research team with Barry Lyons. He wrote the book, The Cancer Cure That Worked. It was just a few of us crazy people, scientists back then, that were willing to risk their lives to getting this information out. And many of them have died since then, unfortunately. But after we finished that, we went into the Tesla research team. And the Tesla research team that I was a part of, it was myself, a few other people. I won't mention their names. One of them was a kid that they said was Tesla reincarnated at 9 years old in Canada, kind of like a Patrick Flanagan. At 9 years old, he started writing out all of Tesla's formulas and all of it, and drew the Tesla coil. And the kid ended up building a life-size Tesla coil and the original ozone machines that Tesla bought, that Tesla worked on. And he's still alive today, and he's a really good friend of mine because we worked together on a lot of Tesla technology. The Tesla, what people don't know about Tesla is his understudy was a guy named Arthur Matthews. Arthur Matthews came to Tesla when he was 16 years old. It was like Tesla's son almost. And Arthur Matthews wrote a book called The Wall of Light. Most people don't even know that book exists. As a matter of fact, if you can even find, I think there's a PDF of it online you can look for. Fascinating about the true autobiography of what was really going on with Tesla behind the scenes, how he was a Venusian and they would go out to get in the spacecrafts and go to Venus, and, the technology would come back, and just some crazy stuff. But the reason I tell that story is because Tesla's understudy was Arthur Matthews, and Arthur Matthews' understudy was George Freebot, and George Freebot's understudy was me and two other people. We were the ones that had a lot of Tesla's original technology back in the 90s. And what Arthur Matthews was saying was that, all these great scientists, they end up broke and depressed and mentally abused and not doing good towards the end of their life. But Tesla saw into the future, and he said, in the future, all disease will start in the gut, and all health will begin in the gut. Before I die, I want to develop my last and greatest invention, something that will save millions of lives in the future. So he met with a guy named Dr. Eugene Bloss in 1898 in a hotel room, and he worked on a formula stabilizing monatomic oxygen, reactive oxygen species, to a magnesium oxide and a couple other molecules. Now, that's unheard of today. There's no way you can stabilize ozone, right? Apparently. It's O1 is reactive. That's monoatomic. That's an O1 molecule. Then you have O2, which is a stable form of oxygen. Then you have O3, which is a hyperactive form of oxygen, reactive oxygen species, O4, O5, O6, O8. And Tesla got all the way up to O16, okay? Think about that. That's so nanosecond reactive, it's crazy. He figured out a way to stabilize reactive oxygen onto a magnesium molecule and created the first intestinal cleanse product and sold it for a while until him and Dr. Eugene Bloss, it was a powder. People would take it, it would go in, release all the oxygen straight, not like going into your stomach and going boof, like all these fake oxygen cleansers that are out there on the market today. This would actually stay in your system and release oxygen all the way down 72 for, however, even after 72 hours. And why is that important? Because the true strains that we have in our gut are facultative strains a long time ago, which means facultative means our real good bacteria are anaerobic and aerobic. Okay, this is another big misnomer that the medical profession is putting out, that, we do have anaerobic bacteria, we do have aerobic, but the facultative strains are the core, which can be aerobic and anaerobic. And Tesla knew that it wasn't only about feeding the gut bacteria with the oxygen, because when he saw into the future, he knew people weren't going to be eating lots of fruit and lots of live foods where you're going to naturally get oxygen into your system, or drinking highly oxygenated water, let's say. So he knew that was going to low oxygen content in the atmosphere. Also, the oxygen content's gone from like 26% to even 9% in some cities now. So we're just losing oxygen. And so he developed this product not only to feed the bacteria, but also to neutralize the bad bacteria that were in there, and also be able to melt away the compaction from all the processed and cooked and horrible foods that people were eating, the man-made foods, these synthetic foods that were building up and building up and building up and stretching out the intestines, and acidic foods that were causing leaky gut syndrome. And, they were doing autopsies, and, people have 10, 15, 20, 30 pounds of compacted fecal matter in their intestines. Your intestines, your gut, is the size of a tennis court, really. If you lay it out, the surface area is the size of a tennis court. So even if you have a tiny amount of junk in there, just think if you swept all that up to the middle of the tennis court, you'd have this big pile of stuff. And people are eating 3 to 5 to 10 times as much food as they should actually be eating. And so this was a way, naturally, because he knew that it's not safe and it's not healthy to use psyllium for long periods of time. It's not safe and healthy to use senna or cascara or any of these type of, they cause permanent damage to the gut. And they still don't oxidize, okay? They're just fibers and osmotics. All it does is suck water in and push something out, or the fiber maybe scrapes it. But with this, it's like a Scrubbing Bubbles commercial that I used to watch when I was growing up. It's like it's an oxidation reduction reaction. So you're taking a solid matter and you're converting it to a liquid or a gas, so you no longer have it there. It melts it all away. And that was the gift that Tesla gave to me. Not indirectly, because we got the formula to make the original Tesla product, and that's oxy powder. And I've given credit to Tesla for that, because I'm sure Tesla's really happy about it right now that we're able to continue his tradition on, and that product has literally helped millions and millions and millions of people for the last 20 years cleanse and heal their gut. So the question I get all the time is, it's just magnesium. It's not magnesium. We've tested every single gut product, oxygen-based gut product. We actually work with Sam Houston State University to develop a high-end testing product to be able to test the amount of oxygen coming off of it, reactive oxygen. And all these other supposedly oxygen-based colon cleansers out there, within 5 minutes, poof, all the oxygen's gone. As soon as it hits the hydrochloric acid in your stomach, it's just boom, gone. The reason Tesla chose the magnesium oxides was because he didn't want anybody absorbing magnesium. That wasn't the thing. You don't absorb magnesium oxide, okay? Maybe if you're eating it with foods and you have some acids, you might absorb a little bit, but that was never the purpose. He never wanted it to be a magnesium supplement. He just wanted that. If you look at the oxide structure of magnesium, it's perfect. It's a perfect lattice, almost like a fullerene, like a C60 molecule. In the right temperature and conditions, and by the way, it's extremely hard to do this reaction. I've almost blown myself up at least 3 or 4 times. I've just jumped out of the door of the lab. I've blown the lab up twice doing this, yes. So ozone ozone under pressure and very low temperatures and everything is a gas, and it can be very explosive. So it's a very unique process that you have to do that takes a lot of time, a lot of attention, and a lot of temperature control, because if you do it the wrong way, you can create a pretty explosive reaction. So I credit Tesla for that. I credit Tesla for that product, and that product is amazing at being able to clean and balance the gut on a regular basis, because that's something you can take that's not going to cause permanent damage. Now, I don't recommend, anyone taking, stuff every single day. I cycle through vitamins and herbs and everything like that so your body doesn't get used to it. Even though we've had severe cases of people that just are, they've had nicks in their nervous system or something during surgery, and they just can't, go to the bathroom anymore. And that's the only thing that's literally saves their life, to get them to go to the bathroom.
Well, this is one thing I really wanted to talk. We'll talk about just pee and poop today. I think that'll cover us. When I first got into natural healing was back in the late 90s, and I had been an addict for a long time, was incredibly, and an alcoholic and everything else, was incredibly toxic. So got sober and thought, oh man, I'm going to live my best life, and was just really sick, especially because I didn't have any way to kind of numb the discomfort and dysfunction, right? So the guy I discovered was Dr. Richard Schultz out in California, American Botanical Pharmacy, and he was really into who was that guy? Old American herbalist, Dr. Christian. What the fuck was his name? Anyway, doesn't matter. Dr. Christopher, I think, was like his mentor, right? So, great stuff. Echinacea and, some other just classical kind of American wildcrafted herbs. He's still around, great products. But one thing that really struck me is he would do these lectures on the colon and on our elimination. And he would just go on and on about how important it was. And so that was my introduction, was doing his program where you'd take his bentonite clay, and then you'd take the herbal laxatives you mentioned, the cascara, whatever, that, it's pretty irritating, but it was good because you do that for like 5 days, and the clay would sort of help to get all of it out of you. But it really made sense to me because he would describe, the lining of your whole colon is like the inside of your mouth. It's a mucous membrane, right? And so if you imagine like the inside of your mouth, you can kind of feel it with your tongue. It's super smooth and viscous. There's a lot of blood flow in there, and it's nice and pink, and it's alive with oxygen and blood. And he would describe how over time, because of the foods you described we're eating, that it would get caked up. And so, your eliminatory organs are throwing all these toxins into your colon, and if it just sits there and compacts, then because you are able to, take in molecules through that mucous membrane, that you just be reabsorbing all those toxins, right? And you're creating this negative feedback loop where you're pooping, every 4 days or something. And he would describe native people that are untouched by, the toxic environment that we have, and they would defecate about 20 minutes after each meal. They would defecate the prior meal from the few hours before or whatever. And so his benchmark was you should be pooping at least 3 times a day. And that sounds crazy to most people because who wants to do that, right? It's like, it's a pain in the ass, no pun intended. But that was kind of the benchmark that got set for me, is doing the colon cleansing and then, colonic therapy and all this kind of stuff. And it really transformed my health with doing barely anything else. So that was something that really caught my attention. And when I found your Oxy powder product here that you're talking about, I did a little research on it, but more than anything, I just tried it and was like, this is the best product ever created for that particular issue. And it's the only thing I ever use now. I always have them when I travel, because I'll go off the rails and eat foods that are, not the best at times. Eat a bunch of cheese and maybe even go off the rails and eat some pizza or something. And digestion is kind of, my Achilles heel, as even despite all the stuff I've done for my health, it's like having good, solid, healthy bowel movements has been a challenge. And so I commend you for this particular product. It's like a non-negotiable, I think, for anyone that is remotely interested in being healthy.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's all Tesla. I don't take credit for it. That's the gift that Tesla left behind right there. And ultimately, what I've realized in all of my studies and all of the consultations that I've done is everything's in simplicity. And I've always tried to teach people that everything's in simplicity. Your whole life, after years and years of counseling, so many people and taking them through their health journey and teaching them how to become healthy, it really all boils down to 4 words. Poisons, okay? I mean, when I say poisons, poisons can be thoughts, poisons can be words, poisons can be TV, poisons can be what you're putting in your body. Anything that's going to lower your vibrational frequency or cause harm to you mentally, physically, or spiritually is a poison to me. And what's the opposite of poisons? Detox, detoxification. So, I mean, it doesn't matter, like all of these. So I was always the doctor that got everybody that already saw all the other natural doctors out there, and they couldn't do anything with them, and they would always come to me. I was always the last resort. I still am, actually. I just have like another popular movie star last week that just saw all these other doctors and was like, hey, now I'm coming to see you. What can you do? And it's so simple. It doesn't matter. So you have poisons, detox, right? This is what everybody's life comes down to, whether you're healthy, sick, feeling good. Poisons, and the opposite of that is detox. And the next two words are time and decisions. Time is the most valuable asset in the world. And time is the only thing that you can never get back. And I learned this a lot young. We started our cancer clinic when I was 29 years old. Okay. And right away, we were one of the first natural health clinics on the internet. That was right when the internet was coming into play, AOL and Netscape and all that stuff. So we had people all over the world contact us and would fly in to get, this advanced type of cancer treatment. But really, if you think about it, it wasn't that advanced. All of the people that I interviewed, the first step in the healing process was listening. This is what we were doing different. And this is what we learned from all the doctors. So first thing you have to do is you have to listen to the patient. Step number one. So we would have them come in and we would just sit there, have a nice tea, tell me what's going on with you. Of course, they would come in with like 2 or 3 bags full of 100 supplements and everything else they were taking. And they would sit there and we would just say, is there anything else bothering you? And then for 2 hours, they would just talk and talk and cry and talk and talk. And then we would just say, okay, how does that make you feel? And they would always look at me and say, you're the first doctor that actually listened to me. As a matter of fact, my husband hasn't listened to me. My family hasn't listened to me. And I had all this stuff. I just wanted to be heard. In relationships, for example, a lot of times where relationships fail is that one person doesn't feel like they're being heard. You hear that most of the time. The women don't feel like they're being heard or they're listened to. This is a big issue. This is mindfulness. You teach mindfulness. This is about being present in the present moment. And that's when the healing process starts. When that person got all that stuff out, and then, you can see the changes taking place just in that initial 2-hour conversation with the patients. That healing has already started, that healing process, because I'm the first person that they feel that's ever listened to them about what's really going on. They walk in the doctor's office, sit over there, ma'am. Let me get your blood pressure over here. Let me poke you over here. Doctor walks in. What are you feeling? I read your records. You have cancer. We're going to need to schedule you for chemotherapy, blah, blah, blah. Wait, can I tell you? No, I don't have time for that. I'm going out of here. Average time spent with the physician, less than 7 minutes. Step number 2. This is why we were so successful. And this is what I teach practitioners and physicians all over the world. We have the Global Healing Institute where we teach this process for whether you don't even have to be a certified natural health coach. You could be an individual just wanting to learn about heal yourself. Step number 2. Did anyone ever explain to you why you have cancer, Mary? No. Well, don't you think if you have cancer, you should understand why you actually have cancer to begin with? And I'm just talking about cancer, but this goes for heart disease, diabetes, it doesn't matter. Would you like to know why you have cancer? Yes, I would. Has anyone explained that to you? No, no one's explained that to you. Well, don't you think you need to understand why you have a disease to understand and be motivated and to learn how to get rid of it? That's the big part that's missing. Would you like to know why you have cancer? Yes. And then we would go over 2 hours, which are root cause of disease course, and basically explaining to them that your cancer is caused because you live in a toxic external environment and your internal environment is toxic. And of course you go through the foods and the fluoride and the, everything around. And the way that we explain it is your body can only handle a certain amount of chemicals and toxins on a daily basis. You get to a certain point where you're over that limit, and then your body doesn't have you can't get rid of them as fast as you're taking them in. So the body picks a genetically weak link usually. And, let's say your pancreas or a damaged organ, okay? Because I'm a really big Bruce Lipton fan and epigenetics fan. And, I don't believe that disease is genetic. I believe there's a tiny, tiny, tiny little energy signal there that might lead it to a certain organ. but it's the environment. It's not the genes that cause the disease. And we have proven this many, 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 many times. So at that point, we go over, look, if your body's, starts to break down, your liver can't detoxify anymore, your body gets full of parasites and all these chemicals and all these metals and all this synthetic stuff, and it starts breaking down. And well, maybe that it starts dumping them in your pancreas and you end up with diabetes, or maybe it starts dumping them in your joints, you end up with arthritis, or maybe it starts dumping them in your arteries, you end up with heart disease. Every disease is linked to the same thing. We don't need a doctor, a nephrologist, and a lymphologist, and a cardiologist, and a orthopedic. I mean, they silo doctors because a true doctor works on the whole body, not one individual piece. And that's why, it's so combobulated and messed up right now. So after we explain all this to them, it's just like, it doesn't matter what the disease is. It's still all caused by a toxic internal and external environment. And at that point, it's like, okay, what do you think? Do you understand, after we go through that process, do you now understand why you have cancer? Do you now understand why you have heart disease? Do you now understand why you have whatever? Yes, I understand. Okay, so the next step is to detoxify you. Detoxify your environment, detoxify your body. The 4 things that the medical profession hope you never find out and that they have zero testing for are gut, liver, parasites, chemicals, and heavy metals. Clean and heal the gut is what we would always do first. The liver. The liver is the main organ that determines your mental health, how good you feel, your energy levels, and how sick you are in any type of disease that you have. I've worked so much with the liver and seen amazing miracles happen. 4-stage cancer person sent home to die, had cancer all in his whole body. I wasn't even a patient of ours. This happened a few years ago. Ordered 3 of our liver cleanses, did one, which takes 6 days, was still alive after a week, did another one. He was supposed to be dead in 2 weeks on hospice. He was still alive at 2 weeks, did another one, did another one, did another one, did another one. He did 28 back-to-back liver cleanses. I personally would have not recommended that. I would have had him doing intestinal cleanse, parasite cleanse, chemical heavy metal, changing his diet, doing everything. All he did was liver cleansing. For 6 months straight, he was feeling so good, he went back into the doctor's office and all of his cancer was gone. People ask me, what's the number one thing I can do? And I say, clean your liver. Your liver is the most important organ you need to focus on all the time. Right now in the world, people's livers are only functioning at around 15%. There are no medical tests that can determine how healthy your detoxification pathways are in your liver. These liver enzyme tests are garbage. It just basically tells you if you're an alcoholic or not, or if nothing. It doesn't tell you anything about the liver. There's no liver fluke tests out there. Most people have liver flukes and parasites in their liver. You can talk to morticians about that, and they'll tell you they cut open livers and it's just full of parasites. Liver is your organ for health. Your gut and your liver is your organ for health. And doctors are not doing intestinal cleansing still. They're not doing multiple liver cleanses. One good liver cleanse, like Hulda Clark had a really good liver cleanse. We worked with her for years. She was making great progress because she was getting rid of the parasites. She was getting rid of cleaning out the liver. Clean and heal the gut. Clean the liver multiple times, get rid of all the parasites. And by the way, parasites now are synthetic parasites as well. Parasites are anything, could be a person. Parasites are anything that leaches your energy from you or causes your body to be harmed in any way, steals nutrients from you. Most people think parasites are worms.
I think parasites are politicians.
Well, for sure. CNN, mainstream media, they're parasites.
Speaking of stealing your energy, literally steal your energy through an organization called the IRS.
Yeah, but ultimately you're getting rid of, you're doing multiple, cleansing the healing the gut, multiple liver cleanses. It's that easy, really. That's what we did. I mean, everybody's like, oh, you must have some really high technology stuff. You had such a high rate of cancer success. It's not our cancer success. It's how that individual heals their own body by understanding why they have the disease to begin with, and then cleansing their system out and keep cleansing and keep cleansing and keep cleansing until the disease goes away. That's it.
I'm glad you mentioned the liver cleanse, because that was, now that I think about it, that was the second thing that I started doing under Richard Schultz, was his, Epsom salts and the olive oil and lemon juice and the castor oil packs and all that. And I had a lot of success with that. I mean, that was one of the things that really turned my health around. But I think the point you raised that's really important is that this is a maintenance process, because I did that, 25 years ago. I got a bunch of stones out and all that. And then I stopped because I was like, I'm good. I did one recently with I think his name's Andres Moritz or something, book. And I just followed what he did in the book and ordered my own stuff online, and I didn't get any stones. And so I thought, well, I must not have needed it then.
No, I mean, so we've done over 3 million liver cleanses, and we have a lot of data on that. And I constantly improve our liver cleanses over time. And I can tell you that, I mean, you can just look in the news. You have kids these days, 5-year-olds coming down with fatty liver. The amount of toxins and chemicals we're exposed to, we need to be cleaning our liver at least once a month, doing it. And
really?
You can do a 2-day liver cleanse. It doesn't need to be an advanced 6-day. I'll send you the 2-day liver cleanse that you can share
what's
with all
in your
listeners.
liver cleanse program? Because I saw that on your site after I had just kind of put one together myself, and I was like, oh, you guys have one. It's probably super legit.
Yeah. So what we have is we have a specific liver health formula that we create, which is designed to really dig deep into the activation of the phase 1 detoxification pathway and the phase 2 detoxification pathway in the liver, and also kind of loosen up the stones and prepare the liver energetically for the olive oil. It's definitely not hard. I mean, all those old school liver cleanses, we've tested multiple ways to try to make it a little bit easier for people, because we noticed that we had like a 60 to 70% drop off on the liver cleanse page, because people started reading. They thought they needed to take a week off of work, and they have to drastically change their diet, and it's just like they would just rather not do it at all. It was too hard for them. It's like, let's figure out a way to see if we can still get good results, great results, and have it easier for people to do. So we've been testing this 2-day liver cleanse for about 2 years now, and people are still getting tremendous results with it. And it's just a liver health product, and then drinking either avocado oil or olive oil. Of course, cold pressed, organic, virgin. You don't necessarily need the Epsom salt. Depending on, we've tested it with Epsom salt, without Epsom salt, with apple cider vinegar, with malic acid, some of the other Superphos 30, the phosphorus, some of the other stuff that we used to use with the liver cleanse. We're trying, because of the situation, the dire need that the world's in right now, we don't see too much of a difference, especially because you're taking the oxy powder too. And a lot of the Epsom salts were just to loosen the bowel a little bit, the bile ducts, just kind of let that stuff flow. So we're not seeing too much of a difference. The Epsom salts are also some things that people had a difficulty time doing and taking. And the olive oil, I mean, I have to admit, the olive oil is difficult. I switched over to avocado oil because avocado oil works just as good, if not even better, and it is a lot easier to get down.
Dude, I don't mind. I think because I've done it fasted, by the time I get to the olive oil, I enjoy it. I'm like, maybe I'm crazy. Like that part, I'm like, finally calories,
I think a lot of it's just that oil, drinking that oil down. But yes, so to get back to the 4 words, so interviewing all of these people and asking them all these questions and all that stuff, I learned a lot. I would always say, was there any, do you have any regrets in your life? And it was always like, I wish I would have. I kept hearing that over and over. I wish I would have spent more time with my kids. I wish I would have spent more time with my wife. Now I'm on my 6th wife. I wish I would have spent more time on my health. Now I have all the money in the world. I can do anything I want, but my health, I now have cancer or heart disease and I can't do anything. And I learned so much from interviewing these individuals. And I also learned, I would like to talk about the Great Awakening we're going through now, maybe if we have enough time, but I also learned that trauma and suffering and pain is not always a bad thing. Trauma and suffering and pain can be the most transformational thing that you ever go through in your entire life. And that's what we're going through right now as a planet during this great awakening. We're going through a period of pain and trauma and suffering, but people are looking at that and saying, so for me, like, this is the best time ever right now. This is awesome, these times that we're in. There's just different ways to view that. You can view it as, oh, pain and trauma and suffering, or you can view it as pain and trauma and suffering as growth and awakening and enlightenment and transformation. And that's what certain amount of people are going through, because if you look at the right now on the planet, you're being forced to transform or you're just going to be out. If you look at light, for example, I mean, basically you could break it down to, we have 3 levels right now of consciousness on the planet. We have the black level at the bottom, which is there's no light and darkness, right? And that's you're vibrating at a very low energy. You're completely zombified. You're probably watching CNN. And I'm not judging anybody, but this is just how energy and vibration works. You're not awake yet because you've allowed yourself to be in this situation. Then you have the middle area, which is gray, right? You have half darkness and half light in the gray area. That energy vibration is getting larger and larger right now since the pandemic. Pandemic was actually a great thing that happened because now people are actually seeing the truth and they're waking up. You have to go through pain and trauma and suffering to wake up. The people I've interviewed after their cancer treatment, the drug addicts that have recovered that I've worked with over the years, I asked them, or even interviewed, how did you kick the habit? They always say, I lost everything. I hit rock bottom. I lost my wife. I lost my girlfriend. I lost my sons. I lost all my money. I lost my job. I was homeless. I went through the most pain, trauma, and suffering I've ever gone through in my entire life. And then something shifted. And I started going through this transformation. And I've never touched drugs again, never gambled again, anything like that. I've been clean for 10 years. Pain and trauma, and same with cancer patients that have gone the natural route. So you can go the medical route, you're going to have pain and trauma and suffering, and you're going to eventually die, most likely. Or you go the natural route, you're going to have pain and trauma and suffering, and you're going to survive, but not survive, transform as a human being. I believe that a lot of these symptoms and diseases that are put upon us are for exactly that, for us to wake up, for us to recognize what we're doing in our life that's not consciously effective for growing spiritually, mentally, and physically. And so these symptoms or these diseases are there for us to stop all the distractions in our life and to focus back on us as who we really are as a human. And so they all say that cancer was the best thing that ever happened to me because it transformed my life. And so that's what we're going through right now on a mass level of consciousness, is the earth is changing, and this is the Great Awakening. And this is, we all, including me, have had family members that got the bioweapon, that we've all had like some form of pain or trauma or suffering, but we have to grow through that. We have to become better. We have to raise our consciousness level. And it's also another reason why people are waking up and their consciousness is waking up right now, and they're hating their job and they're shifting to, I feel my calling is to help people now. That's why people are reaching out to be certified natural health coaches. All the people that are watching this right now, whether you think so or not, because you're actually watching this, there's something inside of you that you're spiritually awakening to, where you're either going to help yourself or you're going to choose a path to help humanity, because there's so many people that are coming out of the dark. There's so many people that are in the gray area that they need the wise ones, the teachers, the people to hold their hand, because they're confused. I mean, think about it. They're shaken up. Everything that they've been taught is being, challenged right now. So they need podcasts like yours. They need schooling. They need people, which is, if you feel that desire and you feel that calling, go with it, because that's a calling that people right now are starting to feel. It's almost like what happens in Sedona and Kauai, especially in Hawaii, but some of the other Hawaiian islands. Anywhere there's like Sarasota, for example, anywhere there's like really strong energy and vortexes there, and people always go, well, I'm just going to move to Hawaii. And they move to Hawaii, and all the locals know that the island will transform you. And if you're not willing to transform with the island, it'll kick you out. And that's why the average stay of people that are moving to Sedona in Hawaii is a year or less.
That's so funny you mention that, because when we fled as refugees from California, our first stop was Sedona, and we lived there for 2 months. And I used to go there to visit, and I always had a great time. It's a beautiful place, obviously, great people. We went there for 2 months. I was trying to get my wife on board with it. And the first month, she was like, I just don't feel good here for whatever reason, just her intuition. It's like, oh, damn, I really want to move here, man. I really want to move here. By the end of the second month, she was like, I could probably handle it if you really like it. I was like, I got to get out of here. It literally kicked us out. We were like, even if we both wanted to be here, we couldn't be here. It just wasn't a match, at that time. And then we came here to Austin and immediately felt like, oh, this is home. This is a congruent energy here. So you're absolutely right. We only have a few minutes left because I know you got to get out of here and have a long drive ahead of you. But I would be remiss if we didn't touch on, well, first thing actually is I want to let people know, go to lukestorey.com/global healing, and we got a code, looks like Luke, for 15% off, and we'll put that in the show notes. And I'm just going to say
15% off for the products of Global Healing. And if anyone wants to learn more about self-healing and all the processes that we've used to consult with people to heal any condition, they can learn all that at Global Healing Institute. I started the school 2 years ago to teach all this to people, to empower people with all the stuff that we've learned and tried and stuff that has worked so people can transform their life. We have a certified natural health coach program there, or you can just take the individual courses. Last year, we were the fastest growing natural health institute school in the world.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, so good stuff. Everybody's super happy with it.
And I'm going to recommend everyone listening, if you do nothing else, get the Oxy powder. If you do and you could have a different opinion on this, to me, that's like foundational. Just it's a daily, or maybe not every day, but a couple days a week, whatever you need. And then the liver cleanse. And you got me reinvigorated on the liver cleanse program. Because when I put it together for myself, it was kind of a pain in the ass because I had to like vet every different product. Oh, I got to find the right olive oil and the right this. And I think if you have a kit, it's much easier. Just like the whole thing comes all at once and, with instructions, and it's much lower barrier to entry there. But that's one thing. And if we have time, remind me if there's like another thing that you feel is like the greatest hits of your suite.
Yeah, well, I'll let everybody know that working with some of the great mineral scientists and physiologists and biochemists and all that stuff, and just great spiritual enlightened people, there's 3 core minerals that every single reaction in the body runs off of. One is boron, next one is selenium, and the next one is iodine. The one mineral that has the most reactions, enzymatic reactions, and is necessary for every cell in the body, every function in the body, is boron. So the least amount of stuff everybody should be on is iodine, selenium, and boron. The boron that we just produced is a microsomal. Because of that, I was telling you about me looking into what Big Pharma was doing. Unfortunately, in the dietary supplement industry, it's going down fast. I mean, the companies are being bought up by BlackRock, Big Pharma, left and right, and the ingredients are becoming more tainted. For example, we just found maltodextrin in some black walnut hull a couple weeks ago because we do 3 types of identity testing. Us and Mike Adams are the only ones that do microscopy fluorescent testing for identity. And they've gotten so good at hiding silicon dioxide, titanium dioxide, maltodextrin, all these toxic fillers in certified organic products, by the way, that the only way you can see them is through microscopy fluorescence testing. And I would recommend everybody contact whoever they're getting their supplements from and ask them for a country of origin list for all the ingredients in the product. We're happily provide that. Most of the time, you will not get that list from any supplement company because if there's any private equity in the contract manufacturer or the supplement company, they're going to be buying the cheapest stuff out there, and most of their ingredients are going to be coming from China, and we're seeing graphene oxide contaminated in those, etc. You have to do your due diligence. I don't care what supplement company you're using. Most of them are all bought up. Pure Encapsulations and Garden of Life is owned by Nestle, and they're sourcing all their stuff from China. Another quick question to ask your supplement company or your contract manufacturer is are they NSF certified? If they're NSF certified, they're radiating the products. That's one of the things that they require is for you to put a metal detection system. That's crazy
because I always think of that as a good thing.
I thought it was a good thing too until we called NSF in to certify our facility, and they told us I had to put a metal detector. They wanted us to sterilize our raw materials, which was not a requirement, but they asked us to, which we want the good bacteria. We started the first quantum research laboratory in the world with Dr. Glenn Ryan 3 years ago. We test all of our herbs for energy, vibration. We use all glass vessels. We use triple distilled biophotonic structured water in all of our stuff. I mean, I'm a crazy mad scientist. If I'm going to take it, then I want to make sure it's the highest vibration. Myron glass bottles, we're moving over to the liquids, as much stuff as we can, because we invented the microsomal technology, which is no one's done any innovations in our industry in 100 years. People are still taking capsules. We tested all the liposomal, lipospheric stuff out there. None of it was, not none of it. Very few of it was actually liposomal or lipospheric. They were just putting sunflower lecithin in there or some sort of phospholipids and calling it.
Really?
None of the companies could provide us with electron microscopy to actually show the liposomes. So I learned very fast that was a big scam in our industry. And so what we did is we took the glycerisomal technology that was invented by the cosmetic industry back in the 90s. Of course, they were using chemicals, and they scrapped the project because it was so bioavailable that when they put it on the skin, all the chemicals went into the rat's bloodstream and killed them, and they went in and started messing everybody up. But when I was looking at the lipid nanoparticle technology that Big Pharma is using, I was like, we need something that can, if they're using all this nano stuff, how are we going to get stuff in there to counteract what they're doing? It took me 7 years to develop an acoustic microsomal, glycerisomal technology using ancient Tibetan sound waves in a triple distilled water bath, just like the ancient Tibetans would play the drums and the flutes, and they would lift a 2-ton rock 200 feet up in the air. We do it all cold process. All of our stuff is cold. We never heat anything above 105, usually above 80 degrees. Everything is cold, as fresh as you can possibly get it. And we figured out a way to vibrate the components out of the plant, and then using a specific mix of organic glycerin from mustard seed, avocado oil, and olive oil, wrap them in what we call glycerisomes or microsomes. And we have the electron microscopy to prove it. And these are highly, highly bioavailable. I just did a microsomal EDTA because people need to get all of these minerals out of their system and all these metals out of their system for Dr. Brian Ardis. And we tested it against intravenous EDTA, and it was 98 to 99%, just as effective as intravenous EDTA, when normally you would say EDTA oral use is only 5%. So this type of new technology that we're rolled out, this microsomal technology, is above and beyond. We put ormus-based minerals in there to increase the vibrations. So right now, I would recommend everybody do this. I don't have time to go into all the nanotechnology. Ozonated activated charcoal. We produced this specifically for the amount of microplastics and everything else that are in people's bodies. Ozonated activated charcoal is about 500,000 times more powerful because we ozonate it in a specific way. This is getting rid of lots of the toxins, binding a lot of things in people's bodies. It's safe to take. Very, very important to be on that right now. The microsomal EDTA. Yes, I know for me, I get people like, dude, I can't believe you did that because you're so natural and of the earth. And I'm like, listen, if we were living in a natural world right now, I wouldn't do that. But right now we are living in a synthetic world right now. And this is one of the things we've tested under the microscope that is getting rid of a lot of the nanotech, a lot of the chemicals, a lot of the stuff that they're putting in our system. The ozonated
charcoal specifically?
The ozonated activated charcoal, the microsomal EDTA, which is available on Global Healing as well. Selenium, iodine protects you tremendously from the EMFs internally, and so does boron. Boron, iodine, and selenium, really good for your immune system. Everybody's pretty much deficient in those three, so I would recommend those. You have to do it. Doesn't matter what parasite cleanse you do. Black seed oil is working really well. We have a parasite cleanse program, a fungal cleanse program. You have to get all these parasites out of your system. Do parasite cleansing. Next thing I would recommend, cleansing and heal the gut. Good probiotic, good the oxy powder to keep your gut healthy and clean. And the last thing I'll recommend is liver cleansing. You're probably going to need to do 5 or 6 or 7, liver cleanses to, get all this stuff out of your system. You do that, you'll be protected. Do urine therapy as well. If you want to go into that, I have plenty of videos on my YouTube channel, Dr. Group. That is going to be a game changer.
With the urine therapy, I wanted to ask this earlier. So you talked about doing the 10 cc's, which you could do like a rectal implant. Were you speaking about one that you've aged, and put in UV light, infrared light?
If you want to get that level of stem cells, 100 million stem cells, that's the one that you age. I'll send you over the instructions.
Do you think hitting it with the sauna space, infrared incandescent light would be a good modality?
Sure. That's good. And then, to answer your question about the toxins in the urine, that's a big misconception and a big lie.
Right.
In India, even when individuals have severe kidney infections to where there's blood in the urine and there's bacteria in the urine, they still have them drink their own urine. What they do is they do a concentrated urine, though. You can concentrate your urine and make it a lot more powerful if you fast. Because some people will drink their urine with kidney infections and it doesn't go away. But that's not the way to do it. The ancient way to do it is if you have a kidney infection, you fast and you only drink a tiny, tiny amount of water. You almost dry fast. What that does without you eating and without you drinking a lot of water is it concentrates the urine. And you can do this for any condition, really. Like let's say you get sick, which you should fast anyway when you're sick, right? Let's say you get sick. If you really want to concentrate your urine down, and you only need to do it for 24 hours. So it's not like you need to go on a long fast. 24 to 48 hours of eating nothing and just drinking a tiny amount of water, you're going to concentrate the power of your urine 100-fold. And then if you drink your urine that way, it's, you have all the antibodies to whatever's you were exposed to, and it's really powerful.
If you're doing just a standard urine therapy protocol and you're not, dealing with any, outstanding illness, how much would you drink daily?
2 to 3 ounces of your fresh morning urine midstream, and you'll be fine. Urine is a relay system. Now, the reason why you can see, so let's say you take a mercury molecule, an active mercury molecule. That's what you would take in through eating fish or whatever. That's dangerous. It's toxic to your body. Now, if you were to take a basketball, for example, and cut it into 1,000 pieces, or even in your urine, it's probably cut into like 1,000,000 pieces. The fragment of the basketball or the fragment of the mercury is inert. It's not going to do anything to you. It doesn't have it's not a molecule anymore. It's not an atom with a spin on it. It's just a tiny piece. You can still detect those things in urine, but they're not full molecules anymore. So the way that the urine works is actually kind of a homeopathic. You want that there because that tells the body, oh, I have more mercury in my system. Because of the signal, it still has a frequency to it like a homeopathic works. It doesn't cause any harm. It just goes right out of you again, but it's continually signaling. The urine is a relay system. That's why they did it a long time ago, is because it tells the body what it needs to produce or what it needs to eliminate. And that's why it comes out, continually comes out. But you can use your urine to wash your hair. You can use your urine to put on your skin. It's the best skin moisturizer in the world. You'll never have to buy another skin moisturizer ever again. Your skin will be soft. How soft is a baby when it comes out?
Right.
That's what urine will do to your skin. I mean, I'm 56 years old, so my hair's not even really turning gray at all.
Yeah.
And
wow.
I've been consistently on it for about 4 years now, off and on for 20-something years, but consistently every single day. And people say, well, you can't survive off your own urine. It'll kill you or you'll get dehydrated. A lot of the survivalists say that. So we've got evidence of a guy that was in an earthquake in the Philippines and was stranded under the rubble for 40 days. And no food, no nothing. And he survived on his own urine for 40 days and didn't lose muscle mass, didn't have anything wrong with him. They tested all of his blood. It was completely normal. the body will produce all the minerals you need because as your dead cells die, your body has the ability to create and balance your system out with everything you need without you even eating.
Wow.
But I'm not recommending anybody do that. But I'm just saying, like, he survived. He had nothing wrong with him and only lost like 0.25% muscle mass out of 40 days of being stranded. And there's multiple cases like that of people being stranded at sea and survived on their own urine. So again, urine is a spiritual thing. It's not, you shouldn't look at it as, oh, it's a therapeutic. It is very therapeutic, but or you shouldn't look at it as a magic bullet either. It will tremendously enhance everything about your life. It'll help balance out your hormones. I mean, think about it. All your hormones, you're peeing them out. And if you put them back in, they're in the exact balance that you need. It'll work great on your skin. You can soak your feet in it. There's just multiple. If you want to learn about it, go take my urotherapy course on Global Healing Institute.
Cool.
And you get 15% off of any course and any product using the coupon code Luke. But learn about it and study about it. The people that challenge me, I'm like, so what do you know about it?
Right.
And they're like, nothing, but they're just saying it's bad. I'm like, so there's millions and millions of people on the planet right now drinking their urine every day. Do you think that if some, the mainstream media they're waiting and begging to have their heyday to try to put down urine therapy. Has anything gone wrong with anybody? No, it's been saving and protecting lives and producing energy and voltage. See, the thing with 5G and EMFs is it takes away your voltage and alters your DC voltage in your body. All the man-made stuff works on AC current, alternating current. Your body works on DC current, piezoelectric stuff. The DC current, the best way to get your DC current back up after a day of being, exposed to EMFs is grounding. I mean, actually, we tested all these EMF devices and all these shielding devices, and basically nothing worked. The best thing that worked with testing the microvoltage in the body was grounding, going outside. I mean, grounding sheets, sleeping on your bed, like we measured the amount of voltage potentials of it draining from your body, being exposed to cell phones and 5G all day long. In one night of sleeping on grounding sheets, you're able to renew yourself from all the loss from that day.
I got a quick question on that. And man, there's a topic I really wanted to cover, and that's how to deal with the bioweapons in people's bodies. We're probably not going to have time, but I do have a question about the grounding sheets, because I've gone back and forth with the grounding pads and grounding sheets for years. When we renovated this house, we had EMF experts come in and test, and then we Faradayed the bedrooms and put even electrical shielding like under the floor here because there's wiring. So anywhere where you're sitting and hanging out, there's AC current blocking. In the rooms, it's RF and AC. When we were doing that, one of the guys, Brian Hoyer from Shielded Healing, who's a building biologist, was explaining grounding because that's one of the ways we were doing the testing, right? And I always thought, well, grounding is good if you're around EMF because you can watch a skin voltage meter go to zero the minute you touch the grounding mat or the grounding sheet. And the way he explained it to me, he said, well, that's kind of misleading because what's happening is your body's becoming the ground, you're becoming the conduit. So his theory is it's a bad idea to use grounding sheets or that technology if you are near an electric field. And so I have a grounding sheet on our bed, but all the electric fields are nullified, so I feel perfectly safe. Do you think there's any risk to using, grounding pads and sheets if you are becoming the conduit, if you're too close to a wall, say with 60 hertz running through the wiring?
Yeah, I think that would make a difference. Ultimately, it's creating your environment, a good environment to where, there's window film now that you can get for your windows, which block 99.9%.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah.
9% of the harmful radiation.
It works too, dude, because we shielded the whole bedroom, and then I went in there with a meter and I was still picking up Wi-Fi signals and RF, and I was like, what the hell? And I was like, oh, we didn't do the windows. We had the film put on the windows, and then it went down to zero.
Away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have about a 20-person team that started doing research on all this about 3 months ago. And we're continually testing things, and we have an EMF guide, and I actually like those grounding shoes too. If you have the ones from the 783
like
Harmony or whatever. So any way that you can reduce, having your stuff on airplane mode or just reduce the amount of EMFs coming into your house or the exposure. I mean, that's what they're using to control One day I hope that we can educate people enough to realize that those are directed energy weapons and not cell phone towers. And then we can flip those towers around to produce healing energies.
Exactly.
Since they're already up.
I know,
that way we
man.
can just harmonize, the whole.
I asked Ibrahim Karim, the biogeometry inventor, about that. I said, if one wanted to, if there was an incentive, could we take the wireless network and use it for good and for healing with positive frequencies? He said, yeah, you could do it in a day on the whole world. It's like, it's not hard at all. It's just no one's incentivized to do it, especially if the incentive is to actually harm us, which is becoming pretty clear. All right,
I'll take two more things. So everything I told you guys will work on all the bioweapon stuff. I would add organic apple cider vinegar to that, 2 tablespoons twice a day.
Really?
Yes, we put apple cider vinegar. We've been testing it in blood, and because apple cider vinegar has a unique strains of bacteria in it, and we saw really good effects of the apple cider vinegar melting away some of the hydrogel and some of the synthetic technology.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're testing all kinds of stuff and
right.
enzymes. We have an enzyme formula, the Ultimate Enzymes, which is the only enzyme formula in the world, by the way, that has the glucose oxidase in it, which is a compound I learned about in the 90s, which is actually made by bees. Glucose oxidase is what keeps honey from ever going bad. And glucose oxidase converts glucose into hydrogen peroxide inside the cell.
What?
So we were using it for cancer patients years ago because they take it, and the glucose is, the cancer cells suck in the glucose. They suck in the glucose oxidase, and once the glucose oxidase is inside the cell, it converts the glucose to hydrogen peroxide and kills the cell.
Wow.
So that's we kind of hide things in our products a little bit that aren't, some of the.
You hide the good things.
Hide the good things because.
Instead of magnesium stearate and whatever else.
Yeah, we have none of that ever in any of our stuff.
So I did a show recently, and by the way, we have exactly 2 minutes to get you out of here by 2:15. I did a show recently with Dr. Peter McCullough, and he was talking about nattokinase, for the spike proteins. And I take a huge dose of that every morning on an empty stomach just for calcification and, lipofuscin and all this kind of stuff. Is there anything else you could rattle off that would be useful for people that, unknowingly harm themselves by doing the bioweapon experiment?
Everything the things that we tested, the ozonated activated charcoal, the enzymes, the iodine, the boron is working really good, the selenium, the liver cleansing. I mean, you got to keep, the thing is the liver's congested. If I say one thing out of everything, it's you have to do a minimum of 3 liver cleanses. The liver is the one that's getting hit with all this stuff, and you have to do parasite cleansing. You got to get rid of all these weaponized yeast and bacteria. It's not about taking a lot of stuff. It's more about cleaning the inside of your body out and getting your liver right back to where it needs to be, getting rid of all the parasites and getting rid of all the inorganic minerals and chemicals. They're using these inorganic minerals, which is why I recommend drinking distilled water only at least 80% of the time, 60 to 80% of the time, living spring water the rest. Right now, I don't know if you saw the study, you probably did, 1 bottled liter of water contains 250,000 to 450,000 microplastics. That's how many
you're better
microplastics
off just dry fast, because when I fly, when I fly is when I'm like, I gotta get a plastic bottle of water because I think, I need to stay hydrated. You'd probably be better served by just dry fasting for those periods.
Fasting works incredibly well, and the urine therapy is working incredibly well too, and that's free. All the things I talked about today, basically everything we went over about cleaning the body, those are all, and the EDTA, the microsomal EDTA, is working extremely well to get all these minerals out of the system. Really the biggest, we've watched this transhumanism under the microscope progress. 6 months ago, we were seeing quantum dots blinking everywhere on dark field and on this echo microscope that we have. So you take anybody's blood, vaxxed or unvaxxed. Of course, the vaxxed is way worse. All we saw was just quantum dots blinking. I mean, you can't see the quantum dots because they're in the nanometer range, but you can actually see them blinking. Then that was phase 1 of the transhumanism agenda. Now we're not even really seeing any quantum dots blinking anymore. They've already formed into all these micro robots and these hydrogels and these polymers. It's almost like the blob. Like I saw a slide yesterday live blood cell slide where it was this hydrogel, and it was just like eating up blood cells and just like growing. And we're seeing antennas. We've identified spider silk in there. There's tons of venoms. Dr. Brian Ardis is 100% correct about all the venoms being produced, which is, I wish we had time. I could go into why they're doing the venoms. I mean, you look back in history, there's always snakes everywhere dating back, and it's easy to genetically modify things with venoms and to strengthen things with venoms. Because the big thing with the transhumanism agenda, Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum, what I did was I looked at, okay, I started from what they were trying to create. I said, okay, if they can create a half cyborg, half human, controllable through frequencies, how would they do that? I want to work my way back. I could not go further than like a day of research because I was like, that it's impossible because I've got the studies that show 5G causes double strand breaks on human DNA. I mean, like, how are they going to do this? How are they like, there's no way they can do this without us just completely being destroyed. And then I started looking at all of Dr. Brian Ardis's research on his venoms and the snake venoms and all that stuff. And I'm like, how does this connect? And then I went back and found a video on an ancient temple on how this guy doing a video in this temple that was like 12,000 years old. And he's saying, were they trying to warn us about genetically engineering? And he's showing how they were doing this genetic engineering like thousands of years ago. And they show pictures of the snake's DNA in the human, and they show statues in there of like half snakes, half humans. And I'm like, wait a second, why are they trying to change our DNA into like a reptilian type DNA? I mean, it goes into David Icke stuff and all that. And then I realized that the snake's DNA, the snake and the wild boar's DNA are the only type of DNA that are resistant to frequencies, nuclear radiation, everything. So they have to transform us to a certain degree into, or at least all the microorganisms in our body, to where we can withstand the levels of frequencies that they're. This is theory. I mean, actually, we've got documentation. They sent snakes in to Fukushima to measure the radiation. So, I mean, I've got documents that show snakes and wild boars are the only animals on the planet that can withstand pretty much any type of frequency. And these directed energy weapons are not just 5G. They've been upgraded with microwave frequencies, extremely low frequencies like the HARP frequencies, okay? And extremely low frequencies can be more damaging, actually, than the gigahertz frequencies. They've been outfitted with multiple different variations of ranges of different frequencies that can be emitted to, that's what they need. They need that. And they need the minerals in your body. They need the parasites in your body. They need your liver malfunctioning, all that for their system. So if you just detox and you keep your liver clean and you keep all the minerals, the inorganic minerals out of your body, which is the cooked food, the difference between organic minerals and inorganic minerals is organic minerals are carbon-based. Inorganic minerals are rock-based, okay? So like the bottled water that you get are inorganic minerals, are just tiny, tiny rocks. It turns your body to stone over a period of time, and it clogs up everything. Organic minerals are what you're going to get from fresh fruit, fresh vegetables. The soil, the plant takes the inorganic minerals out of the soil, converts them to organic minerals, and that's the kind of minerals that you need inside your system. Distilled water will get rid of the inorganic minerals. So it wasn't a complete lie when they said distilled water is going to get rid of the minerals in your body. It will. You want it to get rid of the inorganic minerals in your body, but it won't touch the organic. The organic minerals are going to go right into your cells. They're going to go right into the production stuff. It's not going to touch, the distilled water will not eliminate the organic minerals from your system, only the inorganic minerals. Only the inorganic minerals are the ones that are clogging your system up because your body can't use them. You can actually use them if you have enough hydrochloric acid in your system and your liver's functioning correctly. You can break some of those down into subatomic minerals and use them. And there are still subatomic minerals in water, but you also have the archaea bacteria in there as well. So detox, detox, detox. Protect yourself from as much as you can from any EMFs, and continue to listen to podcasts like Luke's Story.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. So much good info today. And just when I think like I've got all my modalities set, you know what I mean? It's like I got the water dial. I'm like, distilled water, back to the urine therapy, and also the liver cleansing. So you reminded me of some things that, were early in my journey that I kind of discounted because new shiny things come along, the red light therapy and PMF and hyperbaric chambers and ozone machines, and it's all good stuff. But I think what's great about your perspective is just the fundamental idea that your body is its own healer. You are your own healer when you just get everything out of the way that's preventing it from doing that. It's like so idiot proof.
It's reactivating your body's own self-healing mechanism.
Right. I love it, dude. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm really glad we had this conversation, but it's clear we're going to have some more. So hopefully you'll be willing to come see us again.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, man.